Kvasten is a Vekoma family suspended coaster at Grona Lund. This specific layout has been cloned several times across the globe, both by Vekoma and even other manufacturers, but the original may be the most impressive when you consider how it interacts with the nearby rides and midways. I'll explain why in this review. Vekoma introduced the family suspended coaster model in 2001, but the early models did not get the best reviews. These rides were tabbed Junior Hang and Bangs. The poor tracking and over-the-shoulder restraints resulted in painful headbanging, which was uncomfortable and shocking to see on such a small ride. Thankfully, the Dutch manufacturer retooled the model in 2007. First, they built Jimmy Neutron's Atomic Flyer at Movie Park Germany. This had a thinner track gauge like their sit-down junior coasters, and lap bar-only trains, and unlike their prior 7 family suspended coasters, this one was genuinely smooth. The more freeing restraints eliminated the possibility of headbanging, but the tracking was far superior as well. Second, they built Kvasten at Grona Lund. This one had the same restraints as Jimmy Neutron, but it had a thicker track gauge like the early family suspended coasters. Yet this one was smooth. Kvasten was so well received that the ride would be cloned 6 times by Vekoma between 2013 and 2018. The 2 most notable examples are Freedom Flyer at Funspot Orlando and Insomnio at Cataplume in Mexico. The latter was placed atop a mall, and the second hill actually travels over the edge of the building. Even other manufacturers have nearly copied this layout as well. Balzer and Mabillard used this layout for their family inverted coasters at the Happy Valley parks in China. I haven't ridden these, but I've heard they're smooth. Intamin then used this layout for Fast and Furious at Warner Bros. World Abu Dhabi in 2018. I think the first drop in this one is whippier, and there's some nice rock work as well, but the ride had a rattle not found in the Vekoma versions. But back to Kvasten. It is impressive how Vekoma crammed this into a park as compact and busy as Grona Lund. Let's look at everything this ride avoids. The lift hill goes over 3 rides, the Blata Get Dark ride, and 2 roller coasters in Jetline and Twister. The first drop dips underneath Jetline and Twister, while staying above the roof of Blata Get. The second hill travels over the boardwalk. The S-bends and first helix travel above the midway. To minimize supports, the track is supported by a large central column with smaller supports branching in multiple directions. The ride then pierces through the top of the station building and navigates a final helix. This is the only part of the ride not placed over a pre-existing pathway. Instead, it winds around a large tree. All these interactions make it a pleasure to watch off-ride, and it adds a ton of kinetic energy to the park. The red track looks fine, but it's secondary to the ride's placement. Kvasten translates in English to the broom, and the ride is lately themed to a witch. There isn't much theming during the main course. The supports next to the House of Nightmares have a monster wrapped around the base, but that's it. And that's fine because the interactions create exciting visuals on their own. The ride's station, however, is themed to a creepy cottage. The structure looks great, there's a fun safety video, and the queue line plays ominous music. You may have a modest wait most days. This typically has one of the longest lines in the park, typically taking 15 to 30 minutes. The main culprit is that this coaster can only run 1 train. That's because the ride breaks in the station. That single train has 10 rows of 2, seating a max of 20 guests per cycle. The park does load the train reasonably quickly though. If lines for this ride are particularly long, it is included in the park's paid JetPass Skip the Line system. You reserve a specific window. When you return, you avoid the outdoor switchbacks and are admitted directly into the short indoor queue. Kvasten costs 70 to 100 Swedish krona, or roughly $8 to skip. This coaster is a really narrow station. The park is happy to take seating requests as long as your desired row is not too busy. They allow up to 2 groups to wait for each row at a time. Force-wise, this coaster is pretty similar across the train, but I think the front row offers the best overall experience for the unobstructed view. You really want to see all those near misses if possible. Kvasten has overhead lap bars like all the new Vekoma suspended coasters. These restraints are extremely comfortable and freeing. and they also allow the train to have a super low minimum height limit, allowing young kids to ride. Once dispatched, you turn left, and then you head up a 64-foot or 20-meter tall lift hill. Once at the top, you have a swooping drop left. It does not have any airtime nor whip, but the visuals are cool as you avoid all the adjacent rides. I especially like piercing through Twister. The second hill is similarly light on power, but because you're over the boardwalk, it offers some beautiful views of the adjacent water. The coaster then dips underneath some trees and twists above the midway. The S-bends are mild, but the far helix is good force in the far turn. There's also a fire effect whenever a train passes by, but it always has been disabled on my visits, presumably due to wind. You then have another S-bend, this time passing through the station. I am always a sucker for a flyby element. The coaster then finishes with another downwards helix. This one offers decent sustained positive Gs, and the visuals are fun as you circle around a tree and brush right up against a fence. You then charge into the station and come to a stop, ending the 1,296-foot or 395-meter long experience. The track length is on the shorter side, but it seems like an acceptable overall length for a smaller family coaster like this. And every inch of this ride is smooth. If you've ridden Freedom Flyer, you know that one has a bit of a rattle to it at points, but Kvasten does not have that issue, even after 1.5 decades of operation. So what would I rate Kvasten? I would give this coaster a 6.5 out of 10. It is a solid family coaster. The visuals are great. I love soaring over the midway and past so many rides. Then the two helixes offer some nice force. The rest of the layout is quite mild in terms of forces though, but it is smooth and it's a big hit with kids. Compared to the other Vekoma family suspended coasters, I do prefer the 453-meter model. Examples include Dragonflyer at Dollywood and Orkanen at Fairhope Summerland. I like the intense start of those two rides, and I find the layout to have a bit more bite to it. I also prefer Phoenix at Dino's Wonder Wheel Park, since it is a more balanced experience start to finish, but Kvasten has the best visuals of any ride of its kind, which is why I'll take it over the other 395-meter models and the early versions of this model. It is still stunning to see this ride was cloned after you see just how much it was squeezed into Grona Lund, but ride-wise, this model makes a ton of sense for many parks. It is a pleasant experience for all ages. So those are my thoughts on Kvasten at Grona Lund. What are your thoughts on this coaster? Let me know down in the comments. If you enjoyed this review, I would appreciate it if you gave this video a like, and you considered subscribing, because there'll be a lot more roller coaster amusement park videos here at Canopy Coaster. Thanks for watching.